So here we have 19, number 19 from an SAT prep book. 19 says sine of x to the n power is equal to 4/5. And what you're asked to find is what is the cosine of 90 minus x to the n. So think about this for a minute. The cosine, well, first off, 90 minus x to the n, that's the complement of x to the n, right? So that's the complement. So make a note of that 90 minus an angle is equal to the angle's complement. Now, what is a complement? A complement is an angle that can add to another angle, and the angles add up to 90 degrees. That's what complements are. If angles complement each other, that means that when you add the 2 degree measurements together, they equal 90 degrees. Similar to a supplement, if angles supplement each other, when you add the 2 angles together, the angle measurement equals 180 degrees, or they create a straight line, right? So 90 minus x to the n means a complement. Now, there's a rule in trigonometry that basically says that sine and cosine are considered something called cofunctions, right? So the sine of an angle is actually equal to the cosine of its complement. So that means that the sine of x to the n is actually equal to the cosine of 90 minus x to the n. So that means that if the sine of x to the n is 4/5, that means that the cosine of its complement is also 4/5. Now, when you first look at a problem like this, you might not be thinking about that because you might have forgot like a lot of the trigonometry rules and relationships and everything. But just know that the sine of an angle is equal to the cosine of its complement. All right. So if the sine of an angle is 4/5, then the cosine is 4/5. And there's another way, like you can like actually draw a right triangle just to kind of try to prove this. So if I draw like a quick little right triangle, let's say I put x to the n, I made that this angle. And if you know that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, so that means the side that's opposite this angle is the numerator. So that numerator is 4, so that means that's 4. And if the hypotenuse is the denominator, that means that this is 5. Because why? The hypotenuse is across from the right angle. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle, so that's 5. So then we say, okay, well, the cosine of 90 minus xn, 90 take away this angle, 90 degrees minus the measure of this angle is going to equal the measure of this angle. Again, 90 degrees, this angle, minus the measure of this angle is going to equal the measure of this angle, right? Because if this was 90 and this, let's say this was 60, hypothetically speaking, 90 minus 60 equals 30. And all 3 angles add up to 180. So that would have to be the measurement of each of the 3 angles. Because if that's 90 and that's 60, that's 150. And then 150 plus 30 gives you 180. So that's how that is. So we got 90, 60, and 30. Anyway, if you did the cosine of this, that would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is still 4/5. 4/5. Because cosine is equal to the adjacent side, which will be this side, over the hypotenuse, which will be this side. But what you really should just memorize is that the sine of an angle is equal to the cosine of its complement. The sine of an angle is equal to the cosine of its complement. And that's how you get 4/5 for your answer.